For millennia, the Somali coast was the world's marketplace. From the ancient Silk Road to the spice routes of the Middle Ages, the Somali people were the gatekeepers of the Red Sea. They were not just nomads of the desert, but masters of the sea, prosperous, independent, and deeply connected to the Islamic world. But in the late 19th century, the wind changed. The opening of the Suez Canal in 1869 turned the Horn of Africa from a distant trading post into the most valuable strategic real estate on earth. The great powers of Europe, Britain, Italy, and France, along with the resurgent Ethiopian Empire, began to cast their shadows over the land of the Somalis. In 1884, Berlin, 14 nations gathered to divide a continent they had barely explored. They called it the Scramble for Africa. Behind closed doors, they drew lines across grazing lands, watering holes, and ancient clan territories. Not a single Somali leader was invited. By the time the ink dried, the Somali nation, one of the most culturally and linguistically homogeneous groups in Africa, was slashed into 5 pieces. French Somaliland in the north, British Somaliland along the central coast, Italian Somaliland to the south, the Ogaden handed to the Ethiopian Empire, the northern frontier district absorbed into British Kenya. The Europeans thought they were moving into a vacuum. They were wrong. The Somali response was not immediate total war, but a sophisticated, localized defense. In the south, the Biamal clan began a fierce revolt against Italian encroachment near Marca. In the north, the British found that their protectorate treaties were viewed by Somalis not as a surrender of sovereignty, but a simple trade agreement. The 20-year war for the soul of the Horn had begun. By 1899, the Mad Mullah, as the British called him, was no longer just a preacher to the Somali people. He was the Sayyid, He had performed a miracle in the Horn of Africa. He had united thousands of warriors from different, often feuded clans under a single banner of faith and anti-colonialism. His message was simple: I have no fort, no houses, no cultivated fields, no silver or gold for you to take. All you will get from me is war. For the next decade, the British, Italians and the Ethiopians launched 4 massive military expeditions to crush the Dervish. They all failed. The most legendary clash came in 1913, the Battle of Dulmadobe. The British, led by the feared Colonel Richard Cofield, thought they could easily disperse the rebels. They were wrong. The Dervish forces swarmed in the British lines. Cofield was killed and his forces were disseminated. Here is the good part. The Sayyid didn't just win on the battlefield, he won on the hearts of the people. He wrote a famous poem, The Death of Richard Cofield, which was memorized by every nomad in the interior. It was a psychological victory that echoed across the British Empire. While the Europeans saw the Somalis as primitive nomads, the Sayyid was building a sophisticated state. He constructed a chain of massive stone fortresses across the land. The capital was Taleh. It wasn't just a fort, it was a city. It had granaries, walls, mosques, and a central command. From here, the Dervish state collected taxes, administered justice, and coordinated a multi-front war against 3 empires simultaneously. For 20 years, the British were effectively locked out of the interior of their own protectorate. By 1920, the British grew desperate. The Dervish were too fast for the cavalry and too strong for the infantry. London decided to try something that had never been done in Africa before: aerial warfare. Unit Z of the Royal Air Force was dispatched. On January 21, 1920, the Somalis looked up and saw iron bars for the first time. They didn't know what they were until the bombs began to fall on the stone walls of Taleh. The fortresses that had resisted cannons for decades could not withstand a vertical attack. The Dervish state was broken, not by bravery or better soldiers, but by a technological leap that changed warfare forever. The Sayyid escaped the bombing and retreated into the Ilmi region, where he eventually died of influenza in 1921. To the British, he was finally gone, but to the Somalis, the seed had been planted. He had proven that the colonial powers were not invisible. He had created the first blueprint for a unified Somali identity. The Dervish didn't lose. They simply retreated into the shadows, waiting for the next generation to pick up the spear, which will eventually become a pen.